Well, welcome everyone to the Mistress of Orion Hall. So today we're going to be reading chapter 3, and I'm hearing from Spirit, third time's a charm. All right, so this can well be your story. Okay, wow, you may have been burned in the past. You may like the color blue. I'm wearing color blue and I'm just looking at the back. I have my blue thingy on. Okay. You may have blue tapestry, I'm hearing. Blue window covering. Interesting. And there's always a reason why I say certain things. I have also received this painting on a canvas. Okay. So there's definitely some color blue. I feel like you're about to receive some sort of a communication. Okay, seriously, that's what I feel. Some sort of a gift. This was gifted to me. And I also feel like you're about to receive something. All right, so let's not delay your message. Let's not delay the third chapter. Okay, interesting. I want to keep it like that. Okay, so without further ado, let's begin on chapter 3. Chapter 2. So, today's quote. Too lightly opened are a woman's ears, her fence downtrod by many trespassers. Let me know in the comment section if you know what that means. That's kind of her fence downtrod by many trespassers. Too lightly opened are a woman's ears. Interesting. You're about to hear something. I'm telling you. So let's begin. Lisa woke and dressed in a white blouse and linen hip huggers of bright orange, determined to forget the strange incidents of the past 24 hours. So for some of you, you're about to hear some sort of a news within the next 24 hours. Maggie greeted her with the news, talking about news, that she had been up for over an hour and had found the storeroom filled with furniture and pewter flatware, and all sorts of things waiting to be unpacked and unwrapped. But we'll need help here, Maggie said. Let's go into the village and see what we can get. When I sent my notice of residency to the mayor, I mentioned I need some live-in help. Lisa followed her aunt out into the hot glare of the sun and the sparklingly clear air. Somebody wants to clear the air. Seriously. She looked up into the hillsides rising behind the Orion Hall. The tangerine bushes were flashes of fire among the dark green of the olive trees. The village itself was slightly less indolent than it had been the day before, with more men delivering produce in two-wheeled donkey carts. The mayor, a small, dour man in an ill-fitting dark blue suit. Seriously, I'm wearing blue. There's a blue thing at the back. I cannot make this up. Was in his office, a bare walled room, and he was as uncommunicative as the place was barren. So you might be receiving a message from someone that has not been communicating. There was but one man available in Carmania, he told Maggie, an old one-eyed man, something of a village outcast by the name of Nikos. The people of Carmania are not interested in outsiders, the mayor said. There are families here who have never been away from the village for 5 generations, and none have ever been of Cyprus. Interesting. I just remembered. I feel like you're about to remember something. Send this man to me, Maggie said, an annoyance in her voice with a note of contempt she did not try to hide. Maggie had never had any patience with foolish cleanlishness, an attitude Lisa shared. They went outside and Maggie turned to the girl. They'll change their tune after I'm here a while, she said. I'm going back to the house. I want to be there when the man arrives. Why don't you snoop around a bit on your own and learn about the village? Good idea, Lisa said. I'll buy some vegetables while I'm at it. I'll be back soon. Lisa walked away down the narrow village streets, past the old men at the coffee houses, conscious of their glances. In her orange slacks and white blouse she was, compared to the somberly dressed women of the village, like the tangerines amid the olive trees, a flash of brilliance and boldness. Somebody is taking a bold move, I feel. Stepping out of their comfort zone, I'm hearing. She stepped aside to let a car go past slowly and smiled at the look of appreciation in the driver's eyes as he took in her long, lithe figure. She walked through the market square, head held high, but once again she was conscious of the stares of the old crones. It wasn't the curiosity of the envy or even the faint hostility that bothered her. She could understand those things. It was the strange fearfulness in their dark eyes that baffled her and made her uneasy. Suddenly she was desperately hoping no one would thrust a cluster of pomegranates at her again, and she recalled the inexplicable incident of yesterday with new fright. Forcing herself, she stopped at one of the market stalls and bought celery, radishes, ripe black olives, and collards. Arms laden with her purchases, she turned and escaped from the square, her head bent low. She rounded the corner and almost ran into an old man wheeling a bicycle with one hand while carrying another strapped to his back. Instantly, an idea occurred to her. A bicycle would be the perfect thing for getting around the island, even though it might be a little hilly, for ideal riding. She spoke to the old man in her best Greek, which surprised him. She had some trouble with the Greek word for bicycle, which she didn't know, but she managed to get across the idea that she wanted to purchase one of his cycles. He refused vigorously, saying he needed them both, one to ride and one to spare parts. She was about to turn away in disappointment when she heard a voice at her side. Perhaps I can help, the Signorina, the voice said in English, with just the faintest touch of Greek accent. Lisa turned to look up at the man standing beside her, and her voice caught in her throat. For a long moment it was as if the pages of history had ripped backwards and she stood before an ancient Greek statue come to life in all its vibrant beauty. Wow. It's getting interesting, don't you think so? The man before her wore only slacks and a towel draped across his chest, still glistering wet from the waters of the sea. Tall with curly black hair and eyes of deep, liquid brown, he looked down at her with his full, sensuous lips smiling easily. His tanned skin rippled across a broad, beautiful, muscular chest. Oh, man. Truly, she had never seen a more handsome man in his life. She saw him throwing the discus in ancient Thrace, marching beside Hannibal, debating amid the columns of the Acropolis. Wow! He was all she'd ever studied and read of ancient Greek beauty come to life, standing before her in flesh and blood. Oh my gosh. Oh, are you expecting someone handsome to message you? Oh my God. It was little wonder that it took a long moment for her to find her tongue. I feel like you're going to be speechless. I am Demetrius, he said simply, his smile widening into dazzling sunlight. The gods smile on me today. I was wondering how I might meet you. I saw you yesterday when you arrived with the other lady. My aunt, Lisa said. I'm Lisa Bowen. His smile flashed again to wrap itself around her little and warming garland. Well, Lisa, there's no need to haggle with that old man when I can get you a bicycle easily, and at a better price than he would ask. Do you sell bicycles? Lisa asked, hoping he wouldn't really be anything so prosaic as that. She was happily relieved when he shook his head. No, but I've many friends who have cycles they do not use, he answered. I am a courier for the Greek government and I travel among the islands. But Carmania is my favorite spot and I spent most of my time here. It's beautiful here, Lisa said. What I've seen of it, though I don't think you're too welcome. You have come to open Orion Hall, I understand, he said, taking her packages from her. She didn't protest. News travel fast on Cyprus, but you must forgive these simple people. They hold their little world close to them. They fear the outside. They fear tomorrow and prefer to live in the past. He fell into step beside her and she turned towards the main street. His deep brown eyes danced with a warm fire that reached out to her. You have much to learn of life here, he sighed lightly. Tonight there is to be a happy time in the square, a joyful occasion, what we call a panegyri. Wow. I would like to take you and show you the people enjoying themselves. Suppose I bring you the bicycle and then we could go down to the festivities. I would be terribly honored. That sounds wonderful, Lisa said. So there's an invitation coming, a date. Wow. Trying to hold her enthusiasm to reasonable proportions, her smile matched his and there was no hesitation now. How about 8 o'clock? I will be there, he said. I must motor to Famagusta, but I'll be back in plenty of time. He bowed, a short, quick bow, and pressed her hand. She took back her packages and watched him walk off, a lithe grace in his every step, and she now knew why the ancient Greeks worshipped male beauty even more than female. Oh my gosh, Demetrius, Lisa said softly. Even the name was beautiful. She had intended to return to Orion Hall, but instead she decided to walk up the winding path into the hills that were suddenly less grim. It had turned into a wonderful, wonderful day, and it promised to get even better. She walked the slow, gentle rise of the little road that cut back upon itself and twisted its way upwards with delightful unexpectedness. So I feel like you're not expecting a date. I don't feel like you're expecting communication. I don't think so. She paused every so often to gaze down at the color blue Mediterranean and the white houses of Carmania below. At the far end of the village, almost obscured by the rows of olive trees on the hillside, she saw the towering turrets of Orion Hall. Turning, she walked on, her packages not the least bit heavy. Lisa had just reached a sharp right-angle bend in the narrow road when she heard an oath followed by the sharp cry of a girl's voice and then the sound of a blow. She hurried around the bend and her eyes first saw the girl lying in the road, white blouse and dark green skirt covering a young ripe figure. Her face was darkly beautiful with long flowing hair, but her eyes were those of a hurt deer. Then she saw the man, those cavernous eyes, the piercing fierce glare, and she almost gasped. But the girl looked up at her in a silent plea for help, and Lisa felt her temper explode at the crag-faced man who had haunted her ever since she arrived in London. Oh, interesting. He had one arm raised to strike the girl again and held it in that threatening position. "Don't you dare," Lisa shot out, letting her packages slip to the ground. She hadn't thought of how she could possibly stop this giant in his high black boots, but that didn't matter. She knew from past experience that little ever did when her temper exploded. "What gives you the right to strike her?" Lisa asked, fire in her own brown eyes. "Who are you anyway?" The man stepped back and lowered his arm. "It is not enough you come here," he said through gritted teeth. "You make trouble too. You will pay too, just like she did." Wow. Afraid, he turned, and for the first time, Lisa saw the small, two-wheeled, hand-drawn cart of cloth and skins behind him. He pushed it viciously, almost running over the girl on the road. As he strode off with the cart, he spat at her, and she turned her face aside. Lisa, frowning, was still turning his strange words over in her mind, but she could make no sensible meaning out of them. The girl pulled herself to her feet and turned to Lisa. "It is over now," she said quietly. "I was bounded to work for him 5 years ago and to marry him someday. But it was arranged that way, but now it is done with." "Arranged that way?" Lisa exclaimed. "In this day and age? Here on Cyprus, things are done in the old ways," the girl said. "But I accepted help from you, an outsider. I cannot go back again." "I shouldn't think you'd want to," Lisa huffed. "You can come work for my aunt and live in Orion Hall." She saw the girl paused and then shrugged. "Why not?" she said wryly. "I am not one of them anyway. I was brought here from Crete as a little girl. I will go with you. My name is Thera." All right, Thera," Lisa said. "Let's get to the house and tell Maggie. That's your new boss." "There is a shortcut through the hills and the olive grove," Thera said. "It will bring us out alongside the big house. Come, I will show you." Lisa followed, and the girl led her through a narrow, steep pathway, hardly more than a trail. "Who is that man?" Lisa asked, as they paused for breath at one point. "What does he do here?" "His name is Costa Donapoulis," Thera replied. "Costa is all he is called, and he does many things. Sometimes he fishes on the fishing boats. Sometimes he travels to the other places for a man who pays him to deliver things. Of late, he has made many trips, but he never spoke to me of his work." Lisa felt her lips tighten. So the man, Costa, may have been in London on business of his own. Maybe it had all been coincidental, and she had let her imagination run away with her. Maybe. But that didn't explain the terrible way he had stared at her, nor his cryptic words. Thera turned and started off, and Lisa put her thoughts aside to clamber after the girl. They emerged alongside the east turret of Orion Hall, and a few steep steps down brought them to the main door. When Maggie heard she had returned with a girl to live in and work, she was more than delighted. Thera spoke English too, a double stroke of good fortune. The old, one-eyed man, Nikos, was already busy pulling things from the storeroom, and Lisa translated a few instructions from Maggie to him. Later, over dinner, she told Maggie about Demetrius, and the older woman's eyes twinkled. "Wonderful," she exclaimed. "Nothing like a handsome man to make things come alive, is there?" "Things are about to come alive for you, my friend." Lisa laughed, glanced at her watch, and hurried upstairs to change. As she dressed, she thought again of Thera and the man Costa, and of his strange words. "You will pay too, just like she did." Who else had paid? And for what? Who was she? She hadn't said anything to Maggie about the man's mysterious words, just as she hadn't mentioned the strange incident at the terrace steps last night. It didn't seem that important anymore. It was past, to be forgotten. She slipped on an iridescent blue dress, oh my gosh, and looks shimmering delicious, the low round neckline revealing the cream white swell of her full breasts. She was glad she'd gotten ready early because Demetrius arrived only a few moments later carrying the bicycle. A cream jacket and a black turtleneck shirt made his straight-nosed Grecian godsomeness that much stronger. She insisted on paying him for the bicycle, and he didn't try to embarrass her by refusing. Maggie appeared as they were about to leave and whispered in Lisa's ear. "God, he's handsome, all right," she said. "I never trust men that handsome. It's a thing with me." "Not with me," Lisa laughed. "I don't mind it a bit." She took Demetrius' arm and they went out the door. The panegyri was held in a square at the edge of the stone quay, close by the cooling water of the sea. There were more younger women than she'd seen in town, and they wore brighter than simple clothes. An old man with a concertina and two bouzouki players furnished the music. With Demetrius by her side, Lisa sensed greater acceptance by the others. Or maybe she just didn't give a damn, she told herself with characteristic realism. Demetrius was more than enough to make any girl's evening. She could feel the sensuous warmth of the man radiate an almost animal charm. He introduced her to Greek folk dances, guiding her body with a light but firm hold on her waist that sent positively improper thrills through her. Finally, they sat down to the dinner, sucking pig sizzling over a charcoal fire, stewed lamb and shish kebab. Oh my gosh! Stuffed tomatoes and sliced cucumbers, steaming pots of rice and eggplant, tender morsels of lamb wrapped in olive leaves. Wow, that sounds delicious. It was a feast of memorable taste and proportions, and like the others, Lisa drank deeply and often of the Retsina, an aromatic red wine highly flavored in the making, with the essences of spices, peppers, cloves, and aromatic gums. Ordinarily, it would have been too pungent for Lisa, but it seemed just right to cut the richness of the foods. Cyprus was certainly a lovely place, and Carmania a lovely village by the time the night grew late and the dancing and feasting ended. The panegyri, the time for whipping away ordinary cares, was over. They walked slowly back to the towering house, and it was then that she told Demetrius of her meeting with Thera and the man Costa after she had left him that morning. "You should not have interfered," Demetrius said, his face serious. "I'd do it again," she snapped, surprised at her own vehemence. Vehemence, interesting. I never heard such a word, vehemence. "I don't believe in going along with stupidity and wrong just because it's traditional." "Wrong," Demetrius sighed, and Lisa's eye traveled over the sculptured beauty of his face. "What is wrong to you with your background and heritage may be perfectly right to someone with another background." Lisa reflected for a moment. "I'll have to think more about that," she said. "And I've had too much wine to think much tonight." They had reached the heavy oaken door of Orion Hall, and the moon was a soft glow with clouds beginning to form over it. "You are a really beautiful girl," Demetrius said, his hand touching her hair lightly, running gently down the back of her neck where she had her hair swept up. She felt the warmth of his fingers on her neck. "Perhaps we could see each other after this brief stay here in Carmania," he suggested. "I will try to arrange for that to be possible." Maybe my stay here won't be brief, she said. I see, Demetrius said, and for a moment she thought there was a sudden hardness in his voice. But it was only imagined, she was sure, as his lips suddenly closed off on hers. So much the better, he said. His hand on the small of her back pressed her against him, and she felt the urge of desire flood over her, and her lips parted to answer his. But finally she pulled away. She knew the strength of her own desires, and it was something she guarded against. There was such a thing as too much too quickly. Besides, this Greek god of a man was too powerful to take chances with. If she decided to give more of herself to him, it would be that much greater for the waiting. May I see you again tomorrow? Demetrius asked, with that old-world charm that was part of him. I'll probably have a lot to do to help Maggie around the house tomorrow, she answered. Why don't we make it the next day? Fine, he smiled. We will go on a picnic. I'll show you another part of the hills of Cyprus. He turned and walked off, and Lisa watched him go, moving easily with a swinging grace that was sensuous in itself. She closed the door and stood for a moment in the silence of the big house. Kerosene lamps had been put into wall brackets. She saw their flames casting eerie shadows on the stone walls. She hurried to her room and into bed. The wine was still in her, and she felt as warm and contented as a cat by a fire. Demetrius had changed the island of Cyprus for her with one smile. Dimly, she wondered if it were because she so desperately wanted to turn away from the strange things that had happened. No matter, she told herself sleepily, content to accept it if it were so. Demetrius made a lovely hiding place. She slept quickly and soundly, and it was in the early pre-dawn hours that she woke to sit upright in the big bed, wondering why she had awakened. Then she heard it, a half-singing, half-wailing sound coming from the outside. Swinging out of bed, she rushed to the window and tried to peep down to the terraces, but a wispy, trailing fog shifted and cloaked the night. Something white, like a sail, seemed to move in the water beneath the bottom terrace, just as the fog closed in to obstruct her view. Wow. The wailing singing began again, and then died away, and she thought she saw a dark shape at the bottom terrace by the wall. She pressed her face against the window, but the vaporous fog drew a trail across the terrace and blotted out the image. She stood there waiting for it to part. When it did, she saw nothing but the empty terrace and the sea beyond it, equally empty. The fog blew itself away before her eyes, and she stared out at the terraces. Something had been down there. She was sure of it. She shivered and went back to the bed. Was she really sure of it? She asked herself. Night shadows can play tricks, and wine lingers to tease the eyes. She turned on her side and went back to sleep, letting thoughts of Demetrius warm the chill of her body. Not until the morning sun laid its warm fingers across her face did she waken up. Thank you so much.